It's James Newenschwander. I'm a dually board certified physician. I live in White Lake Township. I have a practice in Ann Arbor, and I see chronically ill children and adults, including those that are vaccine injured. And I have prepared comments, and I sent each and every one of you, emailed you today those comments. You can read them. They're fully referenced. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it. Number one, this vaccine is more dangerous than anything we've ever made. Number two, this vaccine doesn't stop infections. It's failing at rates up to 60%. Number three, this vaccine does not prevent transmission. Number four, people that are vaccinated are more likely to carry the infection if they get it because they're asymptomatic, and they'll become these asymptomatic super spreaders that we're all worried about. And number five, the FDA and the CDC, they lie, they subterfuge, they hide things from us, they make things up, and it's not based on science. That was my prepared comments. I invite you all to read those. What I'd like to mention right now with my last 2 minutes and 5 seconds is what I've learned today since walking into this room. Apparently, when you have hundreds and hundreds of pissed off parents out there who are against a mask mandate for kids, which makes no sense at all, honest to God, these kids are not at risk, and masks do nothing, you cannot prove it. You cannot prove it. Your solution to that is to change the rules right away and not even allow us to speak when we're supposed to speak. It's like, how did you do that? That was a nice trick. Number two, what is this? Does the virus only attack Democrats, and so y'all have to wear your mask? Or maybe it's that the vaccine just works for the Republicans. I mean, come on, since when was an infection, a political statement? This should clue you guys in that this is all total garbage. And the science that the CDC is using and the FDA is using and these companies are using is garbage. Now, I'm going to shut up and give my minute to one of those people outside because they deserve to be heard. Their kids are the ones that have to put on these masks. My kids are fully grown, and they're not at risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Everybody in this auditorium, one more outburst, we will take a recess. Let's move on. Dr. Schaff, followed by Connie Johnson.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jeremy Schaft. I live in Canton. 58% of all people in Israel that are having severe cases and in the hospital are fully vaccinated. 58%. That's the most vaccinated country in the whole world, and yet 58% are in the hospital right now. 98%. Duke University just had an outbreak where 98% of all the students were fully vaccinated. There was 365 people who had a case, and guess how many were unvaccinated? 8. You know, it's really the fault of the unvaccinated that this is all happening, right? Because this is what we're seeing is, wait, no, that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing the vaccinated that's failing. This is what's happening. Your vaccine is failing. Why is it failing? I'm going to talk to you about a couple things. Dr. New put it all out there for you already, but I'm going to talk to you about it right now. 40%. 40% is how every month your antibodies fade. 5% is how quickly your antibodies fade if you have a natural infection and you've got real natural immunity. Within 6 months, 16% of people that are vaccinated will not have immunity anymore. Within 9 months, only 10% of people that have a real immunity will not have it anymore. There's also a problem with the type of antibodies. We've been told that this is safe and effective. This vaccine works, 98% effective. I don't even want to get into that right now. Talking about we can't come up with PCR tests for 18,000 people in the middle of the giant pandemic where everybody's getting tested all the time. You guys, the Pfizer, you guys don't know about that. I'll stay on track here. All right, so we were told that we have all very high neutralizing antibodies, but it turns out that we don't. Here. So neutralizing antibodies are what are important if you're going to actually stop a virus. And here's what we found. However, we also found that vaccinees generate more non-neutralizing antibodies than COVID-19 survivors, resulting in a lower ratio of neutralizing to binding antibodies. These data were already apparent in the early phases of clinical trials, but remained unrecognized at the time. Let's just let that sink in for just a sec here. We're rushing through everything. We know the science is settled and everything. This is good. This vaccine is safe and effective, and we need to mandate it for everybody. And yet, they didn't know that these antibodies are binding. Has anybody heard of antibody-dependent enhancement here, ADE? That's what's happening right now. Because we have high levels of binding antibodies and not neutralizing antibodies, and this has been warned about for years. They use the spike protein, which is pathogenic. It causes severe COVID-19 on its own, and that's what they use for the antigen. It's madness. Madness, I say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Dr. Talia. I've been a resident of Farmington Hills for probably 45 years or so. I'm a hospitalist over at Henry Ford Hospital in West Bloomfield. A hospitalist is somebody that just strictly takes care of patients in the hospital and sends them back to their doctor when they're done. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about ivermectin. That was developed in 1974 by Dr. Satoshi Omura in Japan, who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for his discoveries leading to ivermectin. This drug was designed to kill parasites, yet they've given it to over 4 billion doses of this medication to poor people to prevent river blindness in Africa, South America, Asia, and all over the world. Incidentally, they come to find out that this drug, that's an anti-parasite medication, actually kills 21 strains of the coronavirus. So in New York City, or I'm sorry, in New York State, 3 patients were on a ventilator near death, and the hospital followed all the protocols that they were using: steroids, remdesivir, tocilizumab. Nothing was working for them. They were dying. 3 different families wanted ivermectin. The hospitals, all of them refused. They ended up hiring the same lawyer to sue the hospitals. The judges agreed with them. Guess what? All 3 patients got off the ventilator. All 3 patients went home. I'll talk on a personal basis. Recently, I had a guy in his 60s who had underlying malignancy, came into the hospital, had gotten vaccinated, caught COVID, and every day I'm watching his oxygenation levels go down and oxygen requirements that I had to give him go up. He was on all the medicines that the hospital gave as a protocol. Finally, he's 1 step away from a ventilator. 50% of ventilated patients die. So in the meantime, I called the people and I said, I need to give him ivermectin. They said, no. I said, if we don't, he might die. They refused. I had to go to the ethics committee. Ethics committee allowed me to use it. Guess what? The guy is home only on 2 liters of oxygen. I treated several patients with ivermectin. I kept them out of the hospital, sicker than dogs at home, with muscle aches, joint pains, no appetite, nothing. They all came home. They were all home and stayed out of the hospital. What the hospitals are doing right now is unconscionable. You as elected leaders need to step up to prevent hospitals from playing Russian roulette with people's lives. Laws have to be set to allow families to choose a particular treatment the hospital may oppose. The families can sign waivers to the fact. Hospitals have no right to decline a treatment that has shown benefit, and they certainly have no right to mandate vaccines. The deaths of all of these people are on the hands restricting the use of ivermectin.
Dr. Talia, please wrap up your comment.
And if allowed to stand, they are on your hands as well.